Hey guys, Jake Sports here, and today I'm making a video about why I think Baylor can actually go undefeated in the regular season and how they have a good chance of making the playoffs. I really do think this is a possibility. I'm sorry I've been absent in the past few weeks. It's the same thing, same excuse. Just a lot of stuff's been going on. Life's been hectic lately. There's tons of other channels that do the same content as me. I have a different opinion, but if you're really looking for that entertainment value, you can just go to some other college football channels. But I don't think I don't think anyone's really gonna make this video. I feel like I'm the only person who's really noticed it. But Baylor has a legitimate shot to go undefeated this year. Um, you know, just a few years ago, they were on the brink of not being bowl eligible, and they're already 7-0. They're bowl eligible. They look great. I think it's just them and Oklahoma left in the Big 12 that are undefeated. Let's see. Yeah, just them and Oklahoma. And right now, Baylor's actually number one with a tiebreak over Oklahoma. But you look at Baylor's schedule the rest of the way. They have West Virginia. They're hosting West Virginia on the road at TCU. Then they host Oklahoma, host Texas, and then on the road at Kansas. So they have a legitimate shot, I think, and I'll get into why. And I think you're going to tell me a few things that you may think I'm wrong about and why Baylor shouldn't even be considered, but I'll get into my reasoning. So basically, they started off the season, crushed SFA, beat UTSA, beat Rice, beat Iowa State narrowly, crushed Kansas State on the road, and that's a marquee win for them. Then they barely beat Texas Tech in double overtime, and they just beat Oklahoma State on the road in a great game. So, West Virginia, we'll go over them. I think that's an easy win. They're playing Thursday of this week, actually, and Baylor's hosting. It's a Thursday night game against West Virginia. I think they should definitely win this game, but really look at the game, and I think the two games everyone's pointing to are Texas and Oklahoma. But I think we saw Wisconsin do it. Don't look ahead. Don't look ahead to those games, Baylor. You got to beat West Virginia. You got to beat TCU, because these two games are big trap games for them that they need to win. And in 1 or 2 weeks, this whole video could be scrapped. It could be useless. But I think Baylor is better than these teams, and they can beat these teams. So that's what they got to do. Against West Virginia, West Virginia is a mere shadow of what they used to be. Whatever talent they had is really gone. They're 3-4. Probably have a good chance of being bowl eligible. Probably end up 6-6, somewhere on there, maybe 5-7. We'll see. But Baylor, they're 7-0. They should win this game, and we'll see if they do. That's a game they should definitely win. And then they're on the road at TCU. TCU really just, I think they were a little hyped up, but definitely not as good as Baylor. I think this is really the trap game, though. As you see, they are on the road. So this is going to be a tough game that they really need to win. And they got to grind through these two games. And then I think people will start considering Baylor as a real contender. So those two games, you just really got to win those, and you're on the horizon, but you're not there yet. If they win those two games, which I think they should, they got their last 3 games. They're hosting Oklahoma, hosting Texas, and at Kansas. If they can really win, I think that Kansas game, if I think that should be easy for them. I think we all know how Kansas is, but I think Oklahoma, I think everyone's seen it, and everyone's looked at that game and saying that is definitely the hardest game on their schedule without a doubt. And I think people are saying no, they can't go beat Texas and Oklahoma. But I've shifted my mind on Texas, and I don't think they're a top 15 team. Just around, I'd say around 20th, because they are not. Again, they are not what they were last year. They beat Kansas 50-48. My guy, 50-48. Kansas should have won that game. And Kansas is 2-5. The Kansas is not good by any means. If you think they are just because they have Les Miles coaching, they're not good. And Texas barely beat them. Texas has not looked good, and I think they can really beat Texas hosting them. But the trick is, I think with that, I think it's going to be the challenge in their way of them beating Texas is after that. It's because it's after that Oklahoma game. Because think about it. Say you beat Oklahoma, you're riding high. You're excited. You can't have a hangover after that game, whether it's a win or a loss. If it's a win, great for you. Come in next week, you gotta dominate. Or not dominate, just win the game. You gotta win the game. That's what you gotta do. And that's basically what Baylor's gotta do. I mean, they can't come in back out hosting Texas. Sorry, misword. They can't come out again hosting Texas, riding high on that Oklahoma win. You gotta come in week in, week out, and win. And that's what they gotta do the week after. And after that Oklahoma game, you don't think your season is you've gone undefeated, because you haven't. But if they can do that, and if they lose again, you don't want another loss on there. Because I mean, really, I think I'll get into it more in a second. But I think I'll talk about a one-loss Baylor. But if you can't think your season's over, blah blah blah. If you lose to Oklahoma, you gotta come back into your home field and win a game, win the next game, and then Kansas. That should be an easy win for them, even though they're on the road. That's nice to have the last game of the season. But you look at the schedule, and this is a storyline that I think is very interesting. And I looked at Wake Forest. I was thinking the same thing until they lost. I was looking at them, kind of same thing, but I think Baylor just, even though they've barely won a few games, I mean, I think they just look like a better team than Wake Forest. I think all of us can say that. But you got West Virginia, TCU, Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas. If you even that out, that's about the same strength of schedule as all their other games. I'd argue with Oklahoma and Texas, but it really does. And I mean, I'll get into a one-loss Baylor right now. Listen, Baylor, if you end up beating every team on your schedule, and you're undefeated, and you lose to wait. Let me just see for 1 second. I just want to check something out. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so Iowa State has not played Oklahoma, and they're not hosting Oklahoma, which is a problem for them. I think Iowa State is really the main candidate you'd want to win, because I mean, unless you think Oklahoma's getting 2 losses, which I do not see at all. I can barely see them getting 1 loss. You're gonna need Oklahoma to lose to Iowa State. That's all you can pray for. Pray for Iowa State. Wait, is that game next week? Let me check. 2 weeks. You gotta pray Iowa State. I think this is their legitimate shot. If they want a higher seed, I think go undefeated. You play Iowa State in the championship game, and you beat them, and you beat Iowa State in the conference championship. Go 13-0. You're in the playoffs. I think if you go undefeated, win your conference, without a doubt, you're in the playoffs. Here's another possibility. Here's another outcome. You win every single game on your schedule except Oklahoma, and you play Iowa State in the championship game, and you win. I think you'd probably get a 4 seed. I think there's a chance you'd get left out. Now, if that was an Oklahoma you were playing in the conference championship, which would seem more likely, then I'd have you in without a doubt because you avenged that loss. And you can go back to that with the Texas on Oklahoma's schedule. What was that, 2 years ago? Or was that, last year. Because they beat every team they played on their schedule. They still lost a game, but they avenged that loss. And Baylor would be able to say that even though they lost to Oklahoma. And they'd have the conference championship under their belt. So, just really interesting. And then you got the outcome of, what was the other outcome? I think the other outcome was you go undefeated and you lose to Iowa State or Oklahoma in the conference championship. And I think you'd be left out. Unfortunately, I'd say a 12-1 Baylor team that didn't win their conference championship would be left out. And I think it's mainly just because of the schedule. I mean, the resume is not there, and that's really the second tier of what people look for when finding a quality playoff team. But I think you gotta consider Baylor at this point, especially if they beat West Virginia this week. And I think the whole country will be having a few eyes on Baylor after they beat TCU. I think the most likely outcome is they beat West Virginia, beat TCU, lose to Oklahoma, beat Texas, beat Kansas. I think that's the most likely outcome, and then I'd say they'd probably lose to. Who was it? Oklahoma in the conference championship, so they have 2 losses. But you look at Iowa State. Iowa State, they're 3-1 right now, so if they beat Oklahoma, you gotta pray that if you're a Baylor fan, you need to pray that A, Iowa State wins the rest of their games, and B, they beat Oklahoma. That's all you need. But the one main issue with this is that they have the same problem as you. They have Oklahoma and Texas on their schedule, and they have them back-to-back weeks, which is tough. Now the difference between you and them is that Baylor's hosting both games. Iowa State's on the road against Oklahoma. Now they're hosting Texas, but I think if you want to go the easy route with this, you could have. I think really just having Iowa State beat Oklahoma will be a compliment for you guys. I think that'd just be nice for you guys. I'll give an example. It's like the Bills. They, when that miracle happened and they got the 6th seed in the wild card, we would have liked the 5th seed, but it wasn't absolutely necessary. We barely lost the Jaguars. I'm a Bills fan, but they've been playing really well. But that's not the point. The point is, you just need it doesn't need to happen for Iowa State. Iowa State doesn't have to beat Oklahoma, but it'd be nice. And even if Iowa State doesn't beat Oklahoma, you can just build that resume if you do win in the conference championship. And I think I think you can only lose one. I think you can only lose to one team and one team only in your regular season. Well, I'd argue maybe two, either Oklahoma or Texas. I'm not gonna get into losing to a second tier Power 5 team. And B, this is necessary if Baylor wants to go to the college football playoff. You gotta win the conference championship, whether it be against Texas, whether it be against Iowa State, whether it be against Oklahoma. You need to win that game. And that is going to be the most important game, and that is where teams usually slip up, and, those second-tier teams that you don't expect. But I love talking about this. I love when Power 5 teams that were expected to go like 6-6 shock everyone and have a really great season. And thus far, Baylor's got a legitimate shot. I really think they do. And if you think Baylor's not in the college football playoff conversation, you are delusional. You are absolutely delusional. Just look at their schedule throughout. Okay, they're playing Texas and Oklahoma back-to-back weeks. I just think Texas is not as good as they used to be. Kansas, easy win. TCU, easy win. West Virginia, both those games should be easy wins. And Oklahoma is really the sore thumb, the big game that they need to win. So, we'll see, Baylor. I'm cheering for you. I want you in the playoff. I think Notre Dame has a small chance, but it's not likely. We'll see how it shakes out. I really got to look over the playoff standings and just where everything's most likely to come out. The scenarios, playoff scenarios. I got to look into those a little more. But I haven't been following college football a whole lot. I have a little over the past 2 weeks, but I got to follow it more. I've been looking at the Bills, and don't worry, guys. This is not only college football. I want to try to get a few NFL videos out too, but I just had to talk about this because I needed to get this, not get this off my chest, but I wanted everyone to let everyone know that Baylor has a legitimate shot. So that's all for me on Jake the Sports. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.